Good morning, everybody, and welcome. A special welcome to the Nashua team, all in green in the front row here, all the way from South Africa, supporting us there, all the way supporting us here as well. Thank you. Basically, my name is Vijay Jugnarian. I'm in charge of development and solution for Avis Fleet Services in South Africa. I've been with the organization for over 20 years now, and the experience I've had in fleet management helped me quite a bit to match appropriate solution with the challenges that we have. And one of them has been Laserfiche, and it has served us beautifully so far. Along with me is Vincent Kelley. Vincent has been with us for a while. Vincent is our technical expert in Laserfiche. And along with Nashua, he turns our vision into practical solutions. The format of the session is going to be as such. I'll be introducing Avis and the challenges that we have in operating in the sub-Saharan countries and West Africa. And then I'm going to pass over on to Vincent, who is going to take us through the solutions and the benefits that we derived. So let's start with Avis. It will be a quick introduction. Basically, Avis Fleet Services is a leading brand in leasing and fleet management solution in Southern and West Africa. The company is wholly owned by Valueadded Limited. Valueadded Limited is listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange with an annual revenue of over 5 billion USD. Valueadded also offers its global customer base, integrated solution backed by leading brands such as Caterpillar, Hyster, Avis, and most motor brands. Our vision is to be a leader, and that's for fleet services, to be a leading provider of integrated motor vehicle usage solution in fleet management and product support by exceeding our stakeholders' expectation at every interface. We do that by providing integrated motor vehicle usage solution to fulfill our customers' specific needs. Also by utilizing systems to leverage core competencies of accepting risk in the areas of maintenance and residual value. And by leveraging the Avis and Valueadded brands in key markets. We've got over 200,000 vehicles on our fleet, and some of the products are basically, the first one is a product where we finance a vehicle and we bill on usage of that vehicle. The second one is basically full maintenance lease, where we take the risk or the reward of the RV, which is a residual value, and the maintenance. The last one is the managed product, is basically motor plans or service plan which we manage on behalf of motor manufacturers. Now, the value-added products or the services are services or products that are bolt on onto the 200,000 odd vehicles. And they range from providing traffic fine management to used car disposal to the fleet accident management, which is an end-to-end product for managing an incident from the time it happens to finalization. And we've got other products, satellite tracking, which is monitoring our vehicle and their drivers. So as you can see, it's a multitude of products that we offer. Where do we operate? We are based in Johannesburg in South Africa. That's our head office. And then we've got branches in Pretoria, Bloemfontein, Durban, Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, East London, and George. Regionally, as separate entities, we've got Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland, Namibia, Mozambique, and on the West Africa, we've got Ghana. Now, as you can see, it's a huge geographical area that we are occupying there. Now, being in that huge area means that we have certain constraints. Some challenges are basically the geography in terms of culture as well as language. Other challenges we've got is infrastructure, because the road system, the postal service, the voice communication and data communication is well below par than a developed nation. Other challenges that we experience are challenges which most probably you also have in your companies. Massive volume of documents, the two areas which we have done, the account receivable, 65,000 pages or document per month, account payable, 20,000 document per month. The inability to locate and share documents, the loss or destruction of documents. We've had a situation where one off-site storage burned down, and we're still reeling from that. Inability to easily access document off-site. We've got sales execs who visit our customers, and they are always wanting to have document off-site. That's common to everybody, legislated retention requirement, lack of document security, and pain associated with filing and retrieval of documents. That for us is one of the most difficult ones. At this point in time, I think I'll take you through a walkthrough the Avis office and see for yourself how we use to barely manage. On your left-hand side, that was a typical desk of an account receivable clerk. Trust me, there was no setup to that. It was as is. The second one is the manual sorting. On a daily basis, the operator brings a stack of paper. Those are invoices. For each invoice, we have to produce backing document for every single invoice, whether it's an authorization from the customer or the invoice coming from the service center. They've got to match it and then file it in that marvelous filing system which we've got there. That for a whole month, it carries on like that until they print the statement. Then they take the statement, put all the backing document and the invoices together, and then it gets couriered. There is one example. This is going to one of our customers. Sure, it might have been one of our biggest customers, but I think that's pathetic. How about our archiving system? It looks a little bit neater. I think they knew that I was going to come and take photo. Normally it's worse than this. Just imagine to actually retrieve something from there, leave apart from filing it back. It never happens. So as you can see, we had geographical challenge, infrastructural challenge, challenge from an operational point of view, challenge from legislation, and obviously cost. With all of these, we had to face the challenge and produce a solution. And that's what we've done. Before I actually hand over to Vincent, I just want to leave you with A quote from James Baldwin: "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Vijay, for that introduction. And as Vijay said, my name is Vincent Kelley. I'm looking after the Laserfiche implementation at Avis at the moment. Now, it's my job to take you guys through the solution we put together with the help of Nashua, our partners, and how we turned all those challenges to overcome those challenges. So I'm going to start off by, that doesn't work. There we go. By taking you through the different technologies we used and how they all piece together. Our main system is our fleet management system, which is running on a AS400 background. This is where all our customer and supplier data is kept, and it's the main processing power in the organization. All data is published through there. Then we purchased Laserfiche Rio, which is now our document and process repository. All documents, that 85,000 documents that you saw on that previous slide, now go through our Laserfiche system, and we're automating the processes through there. To get the documents in, we use a product called ScannerVision, and this is our capture tool. And through LF Link, we process the documents into Laserfiche. Once all these documents are actually in, we've got a custom workflow activity that we built, and through a web service, we then do the communication between the FMS system to do transactions backwards and forwards to update data and also push data. Then we've got our Oracle accounting front end, which is all our customer transactions when we do the invoicing out and statements. And from there we produce a file that goes through Planet Press, and Planet Press actually maps all this data onto our templates and then push that information back into Laserfiche again. Once again, there's update of data between the two systems to make all our template and metadata fields easy accessible for further searching. Then from there, we publish this all to our intra and extranet, where we've got a customer portal for customers to actually log in and retrieve their data, as well as upload certain documents. When I go through some of our examples a bit later on, you'll see exactly how that works. Here's just a list of some of the custom activities that we've done, and we've got a lot of workflow-based activity happening, and on an average day there's anything between 15 to 20,000 active running workflows. So it's quite a very busy system, and that's pushing documents from being scanned through the different departments for processing. The main one here to maybe just make a note of is our Avis generic activity at the top there, which is our portal to actually update the information between the FMS system and Laserfiche. And I've got another screenshot just to show you how that actually fits into workflow itself. And then on Workflow 8, there was a couple of places where we needed to have linking activities to link all these documents together, which 8.3 is actually addressed to a certain degree. So exciting stuff coming. So there's just a screenshot to show you how that fits into our workflow environment. We've got the activity, and as you can see there at the top, we have a web service path that we call, and we pass in certain parameters to the system in which it returns other data for us. And that manually, or not manually, it actually automatically updates different fields on the document. So you don't have to have a user that captures 20 different fields on each document to make them usable and searchable in the system. It's mainly it's just an order number that's captured, and based on that order number we can retrieve the relevant information that's required. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through 4 of our main processes that we've implemented. On 2 of them I've got a quick pre-recorded demo just to take you through the steps, just to get an understanding of how the process actually works. So the first one is our traffic fine management system. You guys might be more familiar with tickets or citations. So a customer drives a vehicle too fast, gets pulled over, he gets a traffic fine. And we manage that process of paying the fines for them, just to take it as a service and to ease the paperwork behind it for them. Now, all of our processes obviously start by having to be captured. And we do that either through our ScannerVision client or through Laserfiche Snapshot, where these documents are then pulled into Laserfiche. Once the documents actually come in, we have workflow routing this to the relevant users' working folders. And the working folder works nicely because from a management perspective, you always know how much how much work your staff has got to do. And even the staff themselves, instead of having a pile of paper on their desk that they now need to work through, this is that pile of paper on a screen. So I'm going to take you through a quick demo now. Just hope that the flash player doesn't bug out on me. There we go. All right, now our standard setup in the organization is, for majority of the users, they've got a two-screen setup. Laserfiche being on the one, and our FMS system on the other. So work will come into the working folder. From there, they would obviously open up the document. And as you can see, that's now a traffic fine. And from this document, they have to go and capture certain pieces of information onto the FMS system to create a new incident, if for want of a better word. They will go and capture the traffic fine number and some other relevant details regarding this traffic fine. All of this information is contained now on their left-hand screen that they're reading from the document. We did look at ways of automating that a bit more by retrieving the information from the document, but at the moment, the traffic fines are not in a standard format, so it's difficult to read it in specific locations. However, going forward with the new R2 Act that we're embarking on in the country, they'll be a bit more formalized. We'll actually be receiving them electronically, so it'll make it a lot easier. So some of this pain will actually go away, where we can then retrieve it automatically from the document and update it to the system. So now in this example, now they've captured the relevant information. They just need to go and capture some fine amounts. Okay, the system is now updated from that perspective. Now we need to have a link between the document and the actual FMS system. So from here, there's three key pieces of information that the clerk just has to go and capture on the actual document's metadata. And those being the traffic fine number, the vehicle registration, and the document type. Based on this, we can do a validation in the back end to confirm that it's the correct information. It's just to avoid some finger trouble where they might be capturing the wrong traffic fine number or the wrong registration number, because the two have to match in the background. If everything is as it should be, they'll then submit a field which kicks off the workflow to do the background checks and balances on this document. From there, the document will be routed to an unresolved folder where it'll await further processing. Now, just to show you in terms of this document how we've updated the information, you can see that a lot of these fields are actually empty at this point. So in a moment, the demo will actually go through where workflow's now picked it up. It'll disappear from their folder, and we're just going to go through a quick search process to retrieve this document again and to show you that now the relevant supply details have actually updated without them having to capture them. A lot of these processes obviously can work in your own organizations, and it might actually seem very familiar, I suppose. There's just a bit of a tree there that you can see that we use for managing things. So now workflow's picked up the document, and generally they won't have the need to go directly back to this document, but like I said, we're just going to show you how the information is updated. So we'll do a quick search on the fine reference number and the registration number just to narrow down the search to that specific document. Obviously, searching on the metadata just increases your search performance. Instead of having to go through thousands of documents, we can fairly easily get to the correct information. So there you can see now that we've got a valid state on our comments, and all the other relevant information is updated. Through security, we're obviously restricting users from changing fields that we've updated through the system so that they can't tamper with any information there. Further to that, once the document actually goes to the archive, all information is locked down, so nobody has access to go and change stuff after being processed. At the same time now, when this document is captured, workflow will send an email shot out to our customer telling them that we've captured a new fine in their database, and that they have to go in onto the customer portal to perform a couple of actions. The FMS system will also send an SMS or a text message out to the driver to notify them that there's a new infringement for them. On the email, however, we're providing them a copy of the actual traffic fine, so they can open it up and view to make sure that it is the correct information and this traffic fine is relevant to their company. We also provide them then with a link to the customer portal that takes them directly to a log-on screen where they can type in their customer credentials, and they've got various options to process from there. So there's our customer portal. Each customer is given their own credentials, so you don't have the chance of one customer logging in and seeing another customer's data or documents. So once logged in, they will have various options now. For the purposes of the demo, we're going to focus on the traffic fine system. The customer we've got for the demo only has one account, but if they had more than one, they can actually go into the different accounts. They can then go to the specific traffic fine management option on their portal, and they can then go and do a search. Now, on the email we sent them, we already provided them with the exact details for this traffic fine, the traffic fine number and the registration number, so they can easily search for that. If they wanted to do a search for all traffic fines for a specific reg, they could just type in the registration. It'll give them a list of all those documents. And once again, on the actual portal, these documents are made available to them. So once they click on their little icon there to the far left, that actually goes into Laserfiche, retrieves the image for them, and presents it to them. It's just another way for them to confirm that obviously it's the correct document. So there they can view all the information, make sure that they're happy with it. Once they are happy with the information that it's correct, they've got a couple of options. They can either notify us to go ahead and pay this fine, or that the fine has to be redirected. Maybe it's on the wrong driver's name. It wasn't the correct driver driving the vehicle at that point. There's a range of options that can happen from here. Now that all happens when they go to a little option at the background there. I'm not going to take you into much detail of that any further from now. I'm going to go on to the next process, which is now our fleet accident management. Like Vijay mentioned, customers involved in an accident, we manage that process with dealing with the insurance companies for them, sending them the claim forms, getting all the panel beats of quotations and supplier invoices and things like that. Now, what made this process easier for the staff is, in the past, they would have all these little bins with folders in for the different incident numbers. A customer would phone in, you would need to go through the different paths to go and look for their file number one, so it's time consuming. Plus, you would never know really at what stage your incident is in. Some people would keep it on Excel, some wouldn't, so there was no real way of managing it for the department itself. With Laserfiche and Workflow, we can actually route it to the different stages of that incident for them. And at a glance, they'll know how many incidents they've got under awaiting quotation, for instance, or awaiting supplier invoice. So it just makes it a bit easier. And with keeping metadata on a folder level, they can also, without having to go into each specific incident, they can see who the relevant customers are. They can do reporting on this. So there's a whole lot of options that we've given them now to make their jobs a bit easier. Then our accounts payable is probably one of our more detailed processes that we started off with, and obviously still changing every day. This process takes us through where work needs to be done to a specific customer vehicle. So it goes through a process of getting authorization, then the supplier invoice comes in, and ultimately we have to invoice the customer out for the work done. Now, after authorization is given, there is a document that's provided as proof of this, which I haven't really shown you here, but this also gets stored in Laserfiche. And that's one of that supporting documents that Vijay mentioned that has to get attached to each invoice going out to the customer at the end of the process. Now, instead of having that to go and manually look for these documents, we're linking them up in the background. When the supplier invoice comes in, in the past, they would have this screen to go and capture the relevant information on, and one or two screens after that. Now, however, they open up the document, and they actually don't even have to go into the FMS system to go and capture the information. They'll capture the relevant information like your order number, your invoice amount, the invoice number, and the invoice date directly from the document, capture that, and we then do a verification on the FMS system in the background based on the order number. And if everything is in order, it updates and it goes on to the next costing department. Now you'll see at the moment there is some information that's already updated. This was pulled back from the FMS system based on the order number that was provided at indexing stage after being scanned. Once it's updated, it'll go to the costing clerk, like I mentioned, and all the other information is then relative to that information. Invoice is updated, and some of the fields are locked away for them not to change it. Now you'll notice that on the links tab, now all of a sudden I've got 3 links. Now this is the supporting documents that we link to. And for the costing department, it's very important to actually have these documents to make sure that the invoice is for the correct authorized amounts. Now in the past, they would have to run around between different departments, finding these documents first, coming back, and then actually costing the document. Where now in the background, we've linked them all up, so they can just click on that link, and it opens up the relative supporting document for them, and obviously their work is a lot easier to do now. One other aspect that we recently launched in the organization, or still tweaking a bit, is our Laserfiche portal, where from the FMS system, we can actually pull back the document out of Laserfiche without them having to actually have the client available. It's all read-only, and it's all based on their actual account credentials. So I'm just going to take you through a quick demo of how that would work. And we've used the costing department here as an example, where they might be getting a query from a customer on a specific order, and instead of, they can do either or, go into the Laserfiche client to open up the document, or while they're in the FMS system, they could actually go into the specific order, have a function to execute, and that retrieves the document for them. So in this instance, they're typing in their order number, it brings up the order details. They can then obviously confirm that they're speaking to the correct supplier in this instance, or customer. Now if you want, make note of the order number there at the top, just to make sure that we're not fooling you. All this information, obviously in the background, we're also storing order information with entry IDs on the FMS system. So when they do a search on this, it actually looks up the relative entry ID or document type. They would hit F11, and that retrieves the document for them. So for read-only users that hardly ever use the Laserfiche client to process, and they just need to view the document, this is very valuable. So they don't need to go to an actual user to email them that document or export or whatever the case. They can, from the FMS system, just retrieve it and view it. There, I've just highlighted the order number just to make sure. They can now view the relative information on there, and they obviously have a couple of options at the bottom. They can enlarge, reduce the form. They've got the option to view the metadata. I haven't included that specifically in this demo, but everything is read-only. So if they just wanted to make sure of certain information kept in the document, they can do so. They will then have the option when they to close this document, they can, for certain processes, we've got an approval or a rejection process, which will update a specific field back to the FMS system again with a flag. So in this example, it just changes it there at the bottom to a yes, that they've approved it, and they can carry on with whatever they need to do. Okay. Lastly, it's our accounts receivable, which is the last leg of the actual accounts payable process, where we've got all that supplier invoices, all the relative or relevant supporting documents in the system. We now have to generate our accounts receivable transactions and statements. Now here's just a bit of a process flow of how that works. We produce the data file out of our Oracle accounting system, which goes through Planet Press, that actually is our form creator, for want of a better word. And we put all the relevant information on a template and store that into Laserfiche. Once in Laserfiche, a workflow will kick off to update other bits of info that we didn't have previously, and it goes through a checking process, all electronically being routed. And it can then either be printed or sent to the archive to wait for the statement to come in. Statement process is very similar, with the added advantage now of being able to produce these statements to customers electronically, either via email or via them accessing it from the web. Now, at the moment, we've already got 20% of our customers that have opted to receive these things electronically. So it's a huge scale down in printing volumes. Number one, we don't have to print one set of copies to actually go to the physical paper archive, because Laserfiche is our electronic archive. And number two, if the customer used to have 3,000 invoices to be printed and he's opted to get it electronically, now you don't have to print those 3,000 invoices. The other part to this is obviously the electronic linking and viewing of the information. You don't have to run around between departments to go and find the supporting documents. It's all linked in Laserfiche. If it's not linked, you can always manually link it if you find it. And we've got different pieces of information that we're using for our linking. Certain transactions are linked based on order numbers, others are linked on fine reference numbers. So we've built in quite a robust linking mechanism there to cater for the different stages of it. We then had to also do a bit of a custom printing and emailing activity, because for us it was important, if a customer had already received his original and a next set has to be produced, that you cannot get another original or seem to be an original. So if a customer phones in to obtain another copy because maybe he's lost his originals, when the clerk sends us out, it'll be watermarked with a copy. I'm not sure if you can really see it on there, but so just a custom plugin that we built for them, and that gives them the opportunity to not just send that invoice, but the invoice and supporting documents. So instead of having to go and look for the different pieces of documents in the system, by opening your invoice with its links, it'll produce one PDF with all the information for your customer. And the same thing from the customer portal. Once he's logged in, he can go to the relevant invoice, open it up, and that'll open up his invoice for him. And the same happens for statements at the end of the day. So some of the time and cost savings that obviously all of these processing has brought to our users is they don't have to do any manual recons anymore. In the past, because we've got different departments on various floors, they would take a piece or batch of paper to the one department, and they would have like a little register to say, okay, you've received batch 8. But that never really said there's which customers are involved in that batch or how many pieces of paper is there. So you still had paper going missing. Having it electronically, we can have one central point of entrance for any document in the system and route it electronically. And through the help of Audit Trail, we can obviously manage to see who's accessed what. Easy retrieval of documents, that's self-explanatory. Now, a user gets a phone call from his supplier or his customer. While he's on the phone, he can punch in the order number or invoice number, whatever the information is required. The document comes up on his screen and he can resolve the query. In the past, like Vijay mentioned, he would have to go to that archive system, look for it, come back, phone the customer back, and then going to refile this document. So it's all just making it more efficient. Easy linking of supporting documents. As I showed to you, we're linking it through workflow in the background. So the user doesn't have to go between departments looking for information. It's all there. And based on their different securities, they'll either have the option to process the document or just view the information. Reduce printing and paper. As I mentioned to you, with having the documents, especially statements and invoices available electronically, we don't have to necessarily print an extra set of paper. We heard from the debtors department that they've gone down from filing something like 25 boxes of paper down to one box, which is a huge reduction. And obviously reduction in filing and storage costs. Once again, you don't have to have that room filled with shelves and boxes to actually file the paper. You don't have to have the actual filing material to do it because it's all electronic. Some of the operational efficiencies, I've already touched on them. I'm just going to go through it again. Document management, electronic filing and retrieval. Like I said, it just makes it so much more easy to retrieve the information and also to obtain it. With audit trail, we can actually say which user has worked on a specific document. If anything went wrong, we can trace it back to a specific time and user. Increased security. With paper, there's a very small margin of security on that document. If it's lying on somebody's desk, it can easily land up in the paper bin, or it gets spilled coffee on. Now, the documents are secure. We use group security to make sure that specific departments can access certain information. Other departments have got more rights or less rights. And the access to the documents are actually monitored. You can decide who can put their hands on that specific document. Reduced filing and storage, we've gone through that. It's all electronic archive, no paper filing required, and less printing. Improved disaster recovery and business continuity. Like Vijay mentioned, when the warehouse burnt down, that we had the paper storage, and there's no way to recover from that. That paper is gone. Having it electronically, if you've got your backups off-site, you can always recover should something happen to your system. So it just, for business continuity purposes, it makes it a lot better. And regulatory compliance, the integrity of the documents are all intact. Like I mentioned, there's no risk of documents being torn or coffee being spilt on them or stuff like that. Your actual document that comes in initially gets scanned, and that image is never changed. So any notation or annotation that happens to that document doesn't change your actual document. And if we need to reproduce it for court of law, we can do that relatively easily. And then retention periods are more manageable. We know when a document comes in, we can obviously stipulate to say, we only need this document for 3 years, and then have a plan after that. So I'm going to take you through a walkthrough now after the implementation of what it looks like at the company at the moment. So, clutter-free workspace. There's no need for having those documents on their desks. The documents are all on their screen. Electronic sorting through workflow, and even on some of the processes, users can manage it themselves. They can now actually have different processes or different stages in their process, and they can know what's going on in their environment. Email delivery, it's self-explanatory. We don't now need to go and print everything. We can actually email it out to our customers, and the web availability, also just another method of making it available for the customer. And then finally, our electronic archive. So this picture looks a lot better than that. Rows and rows of filing cabinets where you had your paper in. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. Is there any questions? I think that's it.